Welcome. My name is Sal March. I serve as the chair of the Faculty Senate this year, and I've got to stay away from the microphone before it explodes over everything. In that capacity, I have the privilege of introducing the speaker for the Fall Faculty Assembly, Professor David Furbish, who is sort of working his way up towards the front. But he's got about 10 minutes before I'll finish my introduction of him. It's that good. Okay, so Professor Furbish, David's research involves environmental fluid mechanics and transport theory applied to problems in hydrology and geomorphology and the intersection of those fields with ecology. I think I know what ecology is. Okay, he'll have to explain the rest of that stuff as we go along. His work combines theoretical, experimental, and computational and field-based components aimed at understanding the dynamics of the Earth's surface and near-surface systems spanning human to geomorphic time scales. I think human time scales are kind of small, and geomorphic ones are like really big. Do I have that right? Good, okay. David has taught courses in geology, hydrology, geomorphology, transport processes in earth and environmental systems, fluid dynamics. He's the author of a textbook, Fluid Physics in Geology, published by the Oxford University Press. He has his PhD at the University of Colorado, MS California State University, Humboldt, and BS at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. You can read all that stuff on his website. What he doesn't have up there is in 2011, he received the Harvey Branscombe Distinguished Professor Award. But like beyond all of that, he has the most amazing picture on his university website that you have ever seen in your life. How do we do this? I saw that and I said, anybody that can do all the stuff that he's done and still get to look like that with this pristine background is a guy that I really need to hear. So I would appreciate if you would give a warm introduction to our speaker today, Dr. David Furbish.
That was nice, thank you. By sediment, I'm referring to weathered granular rock material that moves around Earth's surface in response to flowing water, wind, and in response to gravity. Sand, silt, clay, gravels, cobbles, and boulders. Sediment, of course, is quite important to Earth. Sediment provides the physical template for much of life on Earth. In addition, the motion of sediment from one place to another on Earth's surface is fundamentally a part of the formation of the spectacular landscapes that we get to observe on Earth. With regard to sediment transport, I'm not sure the lights do it justice, but what you are watching is a supercomputer rendition of sand grains moving over a stream bed. I'm going to show you the real version here momentarily. That's about the sediment. I would like to now turn to Hans Albert Einstein. Einstein was an engineer at the University of California. And because of the significance of the problem, Einstein devoted his entire career to the study of sediment motions and sediment transport. But the human interest story actually begins with Hans Albert Einstein's dad, Albert Einstein. Now, in 1928, Albert Einstein, Dad, published a paper concerning the formation of river meanders, these big, lovely, loopy things that rivers tend to do. In this paper, Albert Einstein appealed to the Coriolis force to, in fact, steer the river flow as part of the formation of the meanders. The Coriolis force is the pseudo-force that arises from the fact that we are on a spinning globe. Well, it turns out that the Coriolis force, its effect, in this particular problem is negligible. Oops. Folks in my business like to tell the story that Albert Einstein later stated that, gosh, this sediment river stuff is like really complicated. And therefore I think I'm going to stick with tractable problems. Nonetheless, Albert Einstein encouraged his son, Hans, to pursue the study of sediment transport, which is what he did. Now, if we jumped into this river, we have to keep our eyes open as we swim downward. This is what we would see. And this, in fact, is what inspired Hans Albert Einstein. One of the things you should notice is the particles, the sediment particles start and stop. Some of them move faster and some move slower. Hans recognized that this was not just a mechanics problem, but this was also a statistics problem. And indeed, in the 1940s and 50s, he formulated the beginnings of a statistical mechanics-like description of sediment motions and sediment transport. Rivers, however, are not the only part of the story. Let's go to the desert, and in this example, we are in Death Valley. One of the most important processes by which sediment is moved around in these desert environments is a process that we refer to as rain splash, associated with the raindrops falling during these intense thunderstorms. Well, let me show you what rain splash looks like. Now, what you're watching is an individual drop landing on sand, and you can see the beautiful motion of the sand grains. What I want you to imagine now is multiply that by a few billion raindrops during an individual storm, then multiply that by 10,000 years, and you can imagine that quite a lot of sediment is moved around in these environments. I also want to point out that I suspect we are the only scientists that performed a science experiment in the Fine Arts Building. They have these absolutely wonderful stairwells that allow us to drop water drops from great heights. Now, to approach a problem like this using statistical mechanics, we in fact appeal to the framework of the master equation. Gosh. I absolutely love how physicists name things. The name here is actually fully merited. I want you to think of it as the ultimate bookkeeping algorithm. The function f is like a ledger. It essentially describes where particles are and in what proportions. And all the physics are contained in this function v, which tells us how particles are moved around from one part of the ledger to the other. Now, it turns out that this framework is quite general. And in fact applicable over many, many length scales. For example, Albert Einstein, the dad, used this framework to describe the random walk motion of Brownian particles as they are whacked around by all the other particles surrounding them within a gas or a liquid. The Nobel laureate, Subramanian Chandrasekhar, in fact, used this framework to describe the collective motion of stars in galaxy formation, and we are now taking elements of this framework to, in fact, describe sediment motions. In effect, we are picking up where Hans Albert Einstein left off, with the advantage that we have high-speed imaging and advanced computations, things that Hans did not have available to him. Here are some ingredients of our work. We involve theory, experiments, advanced computations, and particularly important, we get to play in the woods with the spiders and the rattlesnakes. Now, our work involves elements from a variety of fields, and interestingly, some of our work requires making use of survival or reliability theory from engineering and indeed medicine. Our work is of both a fundamental and applied nature. And so, for example, one of the most celebrated early results of classical statistical physics was the formulation of what is called the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, which effectively describes the distribution of the speeds of all the air molecules in this room, for example. And what we have recently done is formulated our version of the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution for bedload sediment, sediment on a stream bed. It is exponential-like and indeed confirmed by experimental work. When moving fluids and sediment play together, delightful things happen. And what you are looking down on are the formation of ripples little ridge-like sand features. These are the features that you see at this, on a stream bed or in the surf at the beach. Our work is, in fact, allowing us to gain a much deeper fundamental understanding of this behavior of the coupled motion of fluids and sediments. And indeed, the large version of those ripples are sand dunes, as you would expect to see in the Saharan desert, for example. Oh gosh, and they also occur on Mars. These are very large dunes, and indeed these dunes, just like Saharan sand dunes, migrate with the fierce, that is, they move around over the landscape due to the fierce winds that occur on Mars. Now, one of the things that they do with the sediment moving around is they fill in the holes. That is, they fill in the craters. And indeed, Mark Schmeckley, a colleague, is making use of what we are learning about the coupled behavior of sediment and fluids to, in fact, accelerate time computationally to explore this process that is occurring on Mars as the crater is filled in. This represents several thousand years, by the way, geomorphic timescales. And finally, our work is allowing us to gain a much deeper understanding of how rivers work, including those lovely loopy meanders that so inspired Hans and Albert Einstein. Thank you.
How can you follow that? I mean, how can you follow that? So maybe we should just stop here and no. There is wine and shrimp, I understand, afterwards, so we'll get there eventually. On behalf of the University Faculty Senate, I would like to welcome you all to the Fall Faculty Assembly. I'm sure you know that the Faculty Senate is the representative and deliberative body of the faculties here. Centrally, it's involved in the governance of the university. It's comprised of elected senators, deans of the colleges, ex officio members, including our chancellor, and an executive committee, which I want to introduce basically to you. I'm the chair, Sal March. Judy Ashner is the vice chair this year. Donald Brady is chair-elect, Jeff Johnston, vice chair-elect, David Weintraub is the past chair, and Greg Bars, the past vice chair. What's important about the executive committee, I think, in this context is that the executive committee provides kind of the interface between the faculty senate and the top-level administrators here at the university. We meet regularly with the chancellor, regularly with the provost and vice chancellor for health affairs. And quite frankly, it's 6 or 7 or 8 people sitting around a table talking about what we think are the issues at Vanderbilt University. And as an executive committee, we look for input from faculty. We look for input from the administration to try to understand what are the issues we're facing. What are the, from an auditor's perspective, the threats or the challenges to the university that might prevent it from meeting its goals or its objectives. And that's kind of the role that this committee plays. Now, as you recognize, or might not recognize, the executive committee is relatively diverse in its representation of schools and colleges. I am from the Owen School, representing professional schools. Judy and Donald are from the medical school. Jeff and David are from arts and sciences, different departments there, and Greg is from divinity/Blair. So we have this sort of wide range of interests and wide range of perspectives that kind of help us try to understand what we can do to help the university. As you also probably know, the Faculty Senate does not make policy, but provides input to the deliberations for policies. So if you have questions or information that you believe is valuable for any of the governance issues that we're facing, please feel free to stop by my office or see one of your Faculty Senate representatives or any member of the executive committee. We'd love to hear from you. Generally, the Faculty Senate maintains a number of standing committees, each kind of addressing different aspects of university governance. And I want to just give you a little sense of what those committees are looking at and kind of their overall charge and the specific charges that those committees are facing right now. So the Academic Policies and Services Committee is concerned with new schools, new programs, degree programs, policies regarding academic honors, leaves, grants, promotions, departmental and divisional chairmanships, faculty intellectual property, copyrights and patents, programs abroad, the academic calendar, and so forth. Specifically this year, one of the issues that a number of faculty were concerned about are policies related to technology transfer, patents, the sharing of revenues between the inventors, the university, their departments, their labs, and the question of whether, in fact, we should have one policy university-wide, or whether the medical school should have a different policy than the University Central, whether it makes a difference if it's a computer software or if it's a physical device. So issues that faculty are concerned about, that's one of their charges for this year. The Faculty Life Committee is primarily concerned with policies related to wages, salaries, fringe benefits, management of investments, employment of non-academic personnel, buildings and grounds, and so forth. One of the charges to that committee this year is to try to investigate issues of transition of faculty into retirement. But what initiatives should we have? As we look at our peer schools, a number of them are coming up with some interesting alternatives and interesting applications for faculty in terms of their retirement. Healthcare benefits, transition into retirement. What the heck are you going to do when you retire? I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to it in 2 or 3 years or so. But one of the questions that this committee is facing is, how do we leverage the expertise of emeritus faculty? I mean, these guys have been around for a long time. That's how they got to be emeritus. They've got a lot of knowledge. They've seen, they've experienced. How do we leverage that? I mean, what kind of facilities can we provide? What kind of strengths can they offer to us? Well, how can we utilize that resource? It's here, okay? Faculty grievance, actually, this year, we formed 2 committees, faculty grievance and strategic planning and academic freedom, out of what was last year the professional ethics and academic freedom committee. The grievance committee, as you suspect, deals with grievances. My sincere hope is that none of you will ever have to see us in any of those capacities, but it's there. I mean, and it is a capability that we like to make sure that as a faculty senate is available to any faculty member who needs that capability. Strategic Planning and Academic Freedom Committee is, as the name suggests, concerned with strategic direction of the university, policies related to educational philosophy, professional ethics, and academic freedom. The major issue that committee will be facing this year is the issue of online education. Many of our peer institutions have kind of jumped into online education with both feet, and we don't want to play catch up. We don't want to play follow the leader necessarily, but it's an environment that we have to be involved with. The question for the Strategic Planning Committee is, what strategy, what philosophy ought we to be facing as we move into this new endeavor of education? It's there, folks. I mean, it's not going away. You know, we're going to have to deal with it, and that's an issue that this committee is attempting to address. The Senate Affairs Committee is concerned with all matters pertaining to the functioning of the Senate, relationship with staff organizations, and so forth. I mean, there's a number of committees floating around the university, and we really don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to duplicate work that other committees are doing. So part of what Senate Affairs is charged with doing is finding out what other committees exist around the university, sharing the knowledge that's been gained from those committees, and making sure that everybody's aware of those activities. The Student Life Committee is concerned with policies related to student matters, including the residential colleges, discipline, composition of the student body, fraternities and sororities, athletics, intramurals, the honor system, faculty-student relations, religious affairs, and the Student Health Service. Last year, this committee issued a comprehensive report on the honor system at Vanderbilt, and a separate report dealing with the college halls and the role of faculty in their governance and operations. Finally, we have an alcohol and drug task force. It's not a standing committee, but a task force that operated last year and issued a report on alcohol use, responsible alcohol use at the university level, and some of the issues that students are facing, and the issues that faculty face as they address students who are dealing with problems of that type and issues of that type. So, those are our standing committees and the charges, the things we'll be working on this year. The executive committee is tasked with following up on recommendations made by the standing committees in the past. And so we have a number of issues that we'll be facing. Again, the executive committee deals not only with issues that come from the faculty side, but issues that come from the administrative side. And a number of the issues that we're going to work with. One such issue, for example, is university policy on criminal background checks. You want me to submit to a criminal background check? I'm like the best guy there is. Well, maybe. What is the trade-off? What's the balance between privacy, which is certainly a concern of faculty and a concern of every individual in the country, and the need to know for the protection of our community, our children that we deal with, minors we deal with, our students that we deal with, other faculty members? How do we make Vanderbilt kind of a safe place and a welcoming place, and a place that acknowledges the personal privacy of its faculty members and its students? That's not an easy question. And we're going to be kind of dealing with that one for not probably just this year, but for several years to come. I'd like to just conclude this introduction with, on quite a happier note. A couple of the highlights from the 2011-2012 year. There was an honor system report, as I mentioned, issued by the Student Life Committee. Vanessa Beasley, Joy Calico were co-chairs of that committee. I believe they said they would be here. Are you here, Vanessa, Joy? Over here, okay. Stand up. Will you just stand up for just a second? Just a second. And Bobby Bodenheimer, who was the executive committee liaison with that committee. These guys did an incredible amount of work putting together an evaluation of the honor system, right? The honor code, as you know, is just integral to the relationships between faculty and students to each other. However, as Ronald Reagan was fond of saying, trust, but verify, right? And so the questions of how do we kind of deal with an honor system, how do we deal with honor violations, how do we, as a faculty, understand how to interact with those kinds of situations. That committee put together about 97 recommendations that the executive committee now will be kind of following up on to determine if in fact those have been put into effect. Last, but certainly not least, the Alcohol and Drug Task Force last year issued a report called Strategies to Promote Responsible Student Drinking at Vanderbilt. The report was incredible. It did have a number of recommendations, but the tagline, the one that kind of just strikes you in the face, is one statement in the report that said 30% of Vanderbilt students reported some form of public misconduct once in the past year, at least once in the past year, as a result of drinking. 30%. I mean, that's an issue that we've got to face. It's clear that we're not unusual in this regard. And so again, the task force presented a number of recommendations that we're going to be following up on as an executive committee and as a faculty senate to try to improve the basic environment. And Mary Yarborough was the chair of that committee. I think Mary is probably here someplace. Hi, here, okay. And of course, immediately after somebody does great work like that, we put them to work again. So we have reconstituted the task force to look now at the prescription drug issue. And I was completely flabbergasted by this, but the issues of students using performance-enhancing drugs at exam time, like Adderall. And I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. But you know what that is, right? Because you've seen it in your students and you've seen issues that come up. That's something we've just got to face. So as you know, no good deed will go unpunished. So as Mary did such a fine job last year on the committee, she has graciously volunteered to chair the committee again this year. So in conclusion, if you have any questions about the Faculty Senate, or if anything to contribute to the ongoing conversation about governance at the university, please feel free to drop me an email, stop by my office, give me a phone call. We want to hear from you. It's important to have those kind of lines of communication open. Okay, my notes now say that I'm supposed to introduce the Provost and the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. I would say that the Provost and the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs really probably don't need any introduction. And especially don't need an introduction from a faculty member who sits over in the Owen School, who really is just kind of one of the guys. But it's my responsibility, so here I'll say it. I would like to introduce to you, for those of you who don't know, the Provost, Richard McCarty, and the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, Jeff Balzer, who will now give to you their words of wisdom.
Along the first several rows, oh, thank you, Jeff. I love you too. Along the first several rows in this section are members of a very distinguished cohort who are celebrating their 25th anniversary at Vanderbilt. But one person who is in that cohort can't be with them, and that's our Chancellor, Nick Zeppos. It was a very hot day in August. In fact, it was August 1st, 1987, when Nick Zeppos got in the, I think it was a Volvo, wasn't it? Blue Volvo, made the trek from Washington, D.C. to Nashville. And over these last 25 years, as he's often been heard to say, he went from the mailroom to the boardroom. He's had an extraordinary impact on first the law school, and then University Central because of his work, first as Associate Provost, then Provost, on our development efforts, and over the last 4+ years as our Chancellor. And Jeff and I just felt like we should acknowledge that. Jeff, you want to draw everyone's attention to what we're doing?
So, what are we doing, Richard?
We're saying, let's give Nick a hand.
We're going to celebrate. We just wanted to celebrate Nick individually because, you know, we all love this university, but I'd be hard-pressed to think of anybody that loves this place more than Nick Zeppos. Nick, congratulations.
Well, thank you so much, and it is a privilege to be here with so many distinguished colleagues, so many people who have served the university for such a long time, their families, like my younger son, not even born when their parents arrived to join the faculty, and welcome new people as well. The constant rejuvenation of our community with new faculty and so many bright students coming in is really the magic of the university. It is what keeps us all young. It is that cycle of rejuvenation. Fall is in some ways our springtime. The new shoots are being planted, and we harvest as we go to commencement. I have to thank Sal for those wonderful opening remarks and his energetic welcome, and I'm very pleased to see that the Senate is taking on so many important issues. I'll talk a little bit about what I see coming ahead, and I think it's really admirable to see the Senate focusing so much on what we all see as incredible opportunities going forward. My good friend and colleague David Furbish, thank you for informing us on the understanding of the dynamics of Mother Earth and her surface and these precious and complex environmental systems. Let me also just extend a welcome to my faculty colleagues and say it is great to see you and thank you for coming to the faculty assembly. I feel I should announce my retirement because there's a full house here. And so there's got to be great anticipation for the speech or the food. I always believe that it's important to stress that as we sit here as the faculty pursuing knowledge, making discoveries, and educating people, that we are in the embodiment of diversity and a meritocracy. And that each one of you, each one of us, has earned his or her place because of the accomplishments and the brilliance and the broad vantage points that you bring to this unique intellectual community. Our strength lies in our ability to disagree, but to always come around certain core principles, to explore certain ideas, beliefs, and even the equations that David put up on the board. These occasions that draw us together, hopefully they're more than good food. They're the important ceremonial parts of what we do as the faculty that govern this great university. I always want to emphasize that we never can lose sight of our mission, and that as we meet challenges, as we think about our work ahead, we teach, we discover, we cure, we educate. And that's why we're here. We must never forget that we're a family. We really are a special community. And as faculty, we hold a position in this family, in this community, as philosophers, scientists, physicians, senior scholars, endowed professors, and new scholars coming along. We follow very important sacred norms of scholarly rigor and discourse. And when our students come, when they move in every year, when they return, we must never forget that we play a critical role in inculcating in them, with them, important standards of justice, academic integrity, reasoned discourse, and treating others with respect and equality. I see these young kids come increasingly say, I can't believe how happy I was when I got my acceptance letter. Those of us who have gone through the college search with our kids sometimes view the acceptance letter as a form of relief, as a form of hope, as a form of, thank God we did early decision. But don't ever forget the word, it's acceptance. And that people are accepted into the Vanderbilt community to be people who are on a journey, exploring as young people with us ideas, identities, and thinking about who they can be and who they will be. Our job is to expand those opportunities, to put before them things that shows acceptance and shows that breadth that you all stand for. We must never limit them. I think today, and I love giving away these prizes, even these chairs, because we really celebrate our mission. We really sit back and say, we're a great university with the highest principles and the highest standards. And we affirm those values today in excellence, in community, and in collegiality, because usually if you self-nominate, you don't get a prize. So I'm honored to share this time with you to honor our colleagues, and I'm thrilled that Sal is going to join me in presenting these awards. First, we pay tribute to those faculty who have dedicated 25 years of service to Vanderbilt, followed by the presentation of the Chancellors Awards. It's a long time for me. We recognize also, importantly, the distinguished service to the university with the Thomas Jefferson Award and the Nobel Prize, the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. Let me follow up on what my two colleagues said. I always consider it a privilege to salute the faculty who have devoted 25 years to this institution. And today, I guess I've been here long enough, I finally got my chair. I feel very privileged to be among this group of distinguished faculty and to be part of this intellectual community. If someone said to me right now, you have to give up one of your titles, Chancellor, Professor, I would say, I'll see you down in the law school. I'll teach civil procedure too. Vanderbilt's values and culture attracted me. They made it a very special place. and I think distinguishable from the other top universities that I saw then and I see every day now. I hope that being part of Vanderbilt has made me, like all of you, a better person, and I hope at least a B Chancellor. In more than words that I can express, I really consider it a privilege to call each of you, new and old, my friends and my faculty colleagues. And I look forward to years ahead serving alongside you. If I make it another 25, Carl, I'm sitting with you. So at long last, I'll get my chair. I told Ruth Ann I wanted a rocking chair. She wouldn't do it. And so I'm getting the traditional chair. So let me call up those who have served 25 years and to tell you that it's a real special group for me, and I feel privileged to be in this group because we grew up here together, and oftentimes we raised our children together and ate dinner together in early days with kids in high chairs and food being thrown at us. Blair School of Music, Amy Dorfman, John Kokonowski. From the college, come on up, join me on the stage. From the college, come on. From the College of Arts and Science, William Fowler, I call him Bill. Carl Johnson, Carl. Kathy Girardet, Kathy. Konstantin Kustanovich. From the School of Engineering, Mark Abkowitz. Douglas H. Fisher. Robert, to me, Bob Galloway Jr. Todd Giorgio. Robert A. Weller. And James E. Wittig. From the School of Medicine, Raymond F. Burke. Brian F. Chrisman. Marilee G. Exton. Agnes B. Fogo. Agnes. Vicki L. Hannig. David E. Hansen. Christina E. Hill. James A. John. Marvin W. Cronenberg. Mark A. Magnuson. Bonnie M. Miller. Louise A. Rollins Smith. Herbert S. Schwartz. Herb. What's up? Anne Marie Tharp. Now, let me just say a few faculty members couldn't be with us today. I want to recognize their 25 years of service. Barut Bouva, Edith Dobbs Weinstein, Lawrence S. Gaines, Douglas S. Kernodle, Lloyd W. Massengill, Cecilia Tichy, John Villette, and D. Mitchell Wilkes. Let me extend my sincerest and grateful thanks to each and every one of you for your distinguished and dedicated service and remarkable contributions. Congratulations. Got it? It's like the all-star class of all time, don't you think? Yeah. Yeah. It's like Meryl Streep and winning Academy Award. What a great class. I think I was the utility fielder that sneaked into the Hall of Fame, drafted by a great class. Okay. Now it's a very exciting time. We're going to present the Chancellors Award for Research, which recognize excellence, visibility in research, scholarship, or creative expression. They're given to all kinds of works presented or published in the 3 preceding calendar years. I will bestow 5 of these awards, each carrying a stipend of $1,000 and an engraved julep cup. Sal, you're going to assist me with these wonderful awards. The first award goes to Colin Diane, Professor of English, and Robert Penn Warren, Professor of Humanities, for her remarkable book, The Law is a White Dog: How Legal Rituals Make and Unmake Persons. Examining traumatic stories of tortured prisoners in Guantanamo, death row chain gangs, and cell extraction with dogs, Colin scrutinizes the fundamental societal questions. How does the law affect our identities? Hailed as a truly stunning achievement, at once searing and lyrical, The Law is a White Dog has already attracted wide attention in the international community of scholars and intellectuals in many, many fields. But those who focus on legal theory and the politics and anthropology of what she shrewdly identifies as legal rituals derive a profound benefit of this book's illumination of civil society's ability to marginalize, redefine, shun, and dehumanize. Although this is a book about near and dear to our hearts as lawyers, common law, juridical law, it is far more. It not only discusses the shades that have developed in British and American jurisprudence, she constantly reminds us of the ritualistic dimensions and cultural expressions embedded in the application of all legal decision-making. Colin was also the author of a New York Times editorial on this topic, and I would note that a few days later, the New York Times wrote an editorial that referred to her work as a scholar. So the impact on theory and practice is truly profound, Colin. For her superb use of legal materials, meticulous, devoted research, masterful study in an interdisciplinary way of how rules and sanctions make or unmake persons, I am very pleased to present this award and extend my congratulations to Colin Diane. Colin, will you please come to the stage and accept this award? Don't let David drink from the cup or catch the check. No, you're great. Thank you, Colin. Why don't you go out this way? I know you're... The next Chancellor's Award for Research goes to Kelly Oliver for her groundbreaking book, Animal Lessons: How They Teach Us to Be Human. Kelly, an endowed professor in our Department of Philosophy, in this book establishes the gold standard for continental study of animal ethics and transforms philosophical thinking about relational ethics more generally. Widely reviewed in important philosophical journals, including Ethics, Philosophy Today, Journal of Philosophy, Journal of Animal Ethics, Kelly's Animal Lessons has sparked interest in disciplines beyond philosophy and has received high praise in scholarly journals such as the Quarterly Review of Biology, Common Knowledge, and Metapsychology. As the basis of a New York Times op-ed piece entitled Pet Lovers Pathologized, it garnered attention among Times readers as the third most emailed article at one point. In this rigorous, engaging, and thought-provoking account of our relationship with animals, Kelly informs our concept of animal pedagogy. She challenges us to consider carefully the ways in which our dependence upon animals also teaches us about who we are and how we respond to needs that originate from the common world that we share with these other animals. For her landmark achievement in ethics and moral philosophy that distinguishes her not only as a well-respected philosopher, but as a public intellectual of great impact, I am very pleased to present Kelly Oliver with the Chancellor's Award for Research. Kelly, congratulations. Could you please come forward? Now I'm delighted to present the next Chancellor's Research Award to Holly Tucker, Professor of French and Italian, for her work, Blood Work, for her book, Blood Work, A Tale of Murder and Medicine in the Scientific Revolution. And I can tell you, it's as good as its title. Focusing on a centuries-old case involving the murder of a homeless man and the rivalry between French and English scientists and doctors competing in the pursuit of scientific glory, Blood Work sheds new light on the infancy of blood transfusion and the experiments and resulting chaos as physicians move from primitive, common practice treatments such as leeches and bloodletting. Cited for its interdisciplinary importance, Holly's spectacular book is a very serious work of historical scholarship that also doubles as an entertaining read. Transcending disciplinary boundaries, she builds bridges between early modern culture and our 21st century society to breathe life into these old historical documents and create an intriguing page-turner that holds great appeal not only for the scholar, but also for students and the public at large. It is a rare gift indeed to go beyond an analysis of the literature and a simple reconstruction of history and actually immerse the reader in the language and culture of that period to provide an historical sense of what people thought and how they conceived of the world. But that's precisely what Holly has achieved here. In doing so, she creates new knowledge where she weaves literature, politics, and medical and social history to provide fresh and important perspectives on this era and our own time. Holly's book is so timely as many of the bioethical issues raised in her book resonate very much in today's debates concerning stem cell research and genome studies. For her meticulous research, which so brilliantly makes the past relevant and interesting to our present, I present this award with great pleasure to Holly, along with my heartiest congratulations. Holly, please come forward. I'm one of those people that watches those TV channels that are like the the kind of C-SPAN or speakers on cable. And I was watching it one night, and I yelled to Lydia, "Lydia, it's Holly Tucker. She's talking about her book. You've got to come in here." Of course, I just read a review of it, I think, in The Economist. And so she was on her little book tour, too. And she was just great. And I kept, there's Vanderbilt. It says right there. Congratulations, Holly. The fourth Chancellor's Research Award goes to Darryl Bornha, Professor of Chemistry, for his groundbreaking research in the development of a free solution and label-free technique to identify molecular interactions. Darryl's work is absolutely revolutionary, and his techniques are used extensively in biomedical and medicinal research worldwide. Known for making seminal contributions through a holistic problem-solving approach and collaborating extensively across disciplines and with clinicians, Darryl has had a profound impact on high-throughput screening, chemical analysis, and medical diagnosis. However, it is his novel approach to label-free detection of ligand receptor binding published in Nature Biotechnology that we recognize today. This process represents an enormously valuable contribution that will have a significant influence on drug discovery, chemical biology, and fundamental studies of chemical binding. His methodology is praised for its elegant simplicity in eliminating laborious, inconvenient, potentially dangerous, and artifact-ridden processes that ruled in the discipline. Representative of some of the best optical designs on our planet, Darryl's research holds exceptional potential as well for commercial success. Indeed, his invention has formed the basis of a new company, Molecular Sensing, Inc. Darryl, Please come forward to accept this award with my gratitude for bringing such extraordinarily high-impact research and recognition to this university. Your commitment to translating discoveries into solutions to benefit humanity and working across the institution exemplifies the very best in Vanderbilt. Congratulations. Great work. It's really incredible. How's the company going?
It's going good.
Good.
Moved here to town. And
Yeah.
doing well.
Are you working with Alan Bentley at all in tech transfer? Yeah, good. Congratulations. Now, today's final research award goes to William Cooper for his important and highly visible contributions to the health and welfare of children. Unfortunately, Bill is in Spain today speaking at a conference, but we've arranged it for his, so that his co-moderator across time zones can surprise him with the news that he is receiving a Chancellor's Award and a check just before, and the Julep Cup, of course, just before he delivers his talk. Now, his colleague Sherry Barkin has graciously agreed to accept the award on behalf of Bill, and I can assure you our outstanding Department of Pediatrics and Jeff and everyone else and I will celebrate Bill upon his return. Let's talk about Bill's work. Bill's work focuses on issues related to the effects of health policy on vulnerable populations of children. With meticulous attention to detail, he coordinates and he sifts through information from large statewide databases. From this data, from his analysis, through the rigor he has brought with his team, he has written more than 80 publications that have served to advance children's health in the areas of asthma, sickle cell, and mental health. In recent papers published in a one-month period in the New England Journal of Medicine and the Journal of the American Medical Association, the number 1 and 3 ranked medical journals. That's like winning the World Series and the Olympic all-around gymnastics in a month. I mean, look at that, it's incredible. Bill reported the findings of a study to address this critical question: the cardiovascular safety of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medication in children and adults. With painstaking detail in case identification, analysis, and confirmation, he showed that there is no evidence that ADHD medication increased the risk of adverse cardiovascular outcomes for children, which disproved previous reports by the FDA describing a host of cardiac and stroke complications in patients taking these drugs. Prior to Bill's findings, these medications were briefly withdrawn from the Canadian market, and the American College of Cardiology recommended routine electrocardiograms for the 2 million pediatric consumers of these medications. By influencing practice in this way, by transforming how healthcare is delivered around the world, Bill reduced unnecessary healthcare costs and provided strong evidence about medication safety that does help adults and children. A 2010 academic pediatrics article detailing a study in which Bill and his team found mothers giving birth in Haiti commonly reported use of fetal harming drugs served as an incredible resource and guide influencing local hospitals' approaches to reduce these risks. Recently elected to the American Pediatric Society, Bill also, not surprisingly, serves as a pediatric advisor to the FDA. Through sound research methodology, Bill amasses invaluable information to inform scientists and physicians across multiple disciplines, shaping healthcare policy in ways that reduce costs and enhance the quality of life. It is my great honor to present this award to his colleague, Sherry Barkin. I look forward to congratulating Bill personally upon his return. Sherry, please come forward. It's now time to present the Thomas Jefferson Award. This award is made annually for distinguished service to Vanderbilt through extraordinary contributions as a faculty member in the councils and in the governance of the university. It carries with it an engraved pewter goblet and a $2,500 prize. This year's recipient of the Thomas Jefferson Award is Vanessa Beasley, Associate Professor of Communication Studies. Vanessa has contributed mightily to the life and welfare of this university. She co-chaired the Faculty Senate Student Life Committee and co-authored the Student Life Committee report on the honor system that Sal discussed. And it represents one of the most important projects not only undertaken by the Senate, but for our university. Putting together this report demanded deft leadership to guide the committee through multiple conversations and meetings with the deans of every academic unit, and Vanessa did this admirably. She also served as director of the program for career development for the College of Arts and Science for a period of 4 consecutive years. In this capacity, she devoted personal time to the important role of mentoring junior faculty and helped them understand and appreciate the university's standards for tenure and promotion. Through her involvement with Next Steps at Vanderbilt, a 2-year certificate program for students with intellectual disabilities, Vanessa was one of the very first professors at the university to include Next Step students in her classes. She's a true pioneer in providing learning opportunities for all individuals, including individuals with disabilities, and she has willingly and eagerly advised other faculty considering including Next Step students in their classes. In all her endeavors, Vanessa reflects a commitment to fostering a positive, nurturing university environment where scholarship, teaching, and creativity flourish. She is deeply dedicated to sustaining a culture in which faculty, students, and administrators work collaboratively for our greater good. Vanderbilt is truly made better by the work of Vanessa Beasley, and it is with a sense of gratitude that I present her with the Thomas Jefferson Award. Vanessa? Today's final award is the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research, given annually to a member of the Vanderbilt faculty whose achievements in research, scholarship, or creative expression have received significant critical acclaim and are recognized nationally and internationally. The prize consists of $5,000 and an engraved pewter julep cup, and the winner's name is added to a silver bowl, which the recipient keeps for 1 year. This award represents the university's most prestigious honor that we can bestow on a faculty member in recognition of research, scholarship, and creative expression. It is my great privilege to award the prestigious Sutherland Prize this year to Peter Beerhouse, Valere Potter Distinguished Professor in the School of Engineering and Director for the Center of Interdisciplinary Health at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. As a nurse and a healthcare economist, Peter is widely considered as one of the most influential workforce experts in our nation. He joined Vanderbilt in 2000 via the Harvard School of Public Health, where he developed the Harvard Nursing Research Institute and its postdoctoral program in nursing health services research. Since his arrival at Vanderbilt, Peter has concentrated his efforts on building a research program that holds much hope for addressing our healthcare challenges. Peter studies the economic issues affecting the nursing workforce. He projects the future age, structure, and size, and assesses the composition and the capacity of nurses and physician workforces. He develops and tests measures of hospital quality of care, and he determines public and provider knowledge, attitudes, and behavior toward changes in the delivery of care. It is hard to think at this moment in our country's history of more important work being done. Peter's projects are recognized and funded by numerous foundations, including the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, for their value in predicting the future landscape and trends in healthcare based on sound, factual data. Earlier this year, the New England Journal of Medicine published a study on the impact of the recession on the nurse workforce. Peter is a highly respected, sought-after advisor, and he was recently appointed to serve on an Institute of Medicine Planning Committee to shape an initiative to examine the governance of graduate medical education in the United States. His visionary work has impacted all of us: nurses, physicians, citizens, policymakers. He's sought after by the media, private sector organizations, foundations, researchers, state and federal agencies, and members of Congress. Today is my great privilege to recognize his valuable contributions to Vanderbilt and to our greater society by bestowing on him the Earl Sutherland Prize for Achievement in Research. Peter, will you please come forward and accept this award? Oh, yeah. A lot of good names on there. If you ever have a boost of a need of an ego boost, read the names on there. You're in good company, my friend. So now we have to go eat, but it's really my privilege to give you a little report and a talk about the state of the university. And I'm really pleased to report that every year I say it's the toughest year we've ever had, and I say it's the best year we've ever had. Well, I'd say it's the toughest year we've ever had, and it's the best year we've ever had. And let me just say, I am pleased to report to you as my faculty colleagues that the university is stronger in every way. And I say that from perspective of 25 years, and Richard said my 5th year as chancellor. I include the interim year, Richard, which was 4 years, I think. And so as I begin my 6th year as chancellor. So I thought it might be different to do this. It might be interesting to do this a little differently. I mean, you know, I was looking at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and they're all walking around the stage, and, you know, Zuckerberg, I put the hoodie on, and I'm like, you know, maybe put the black turtleneck on. It's like, I'd be sweating in that. And so I thought, well, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about, it's 25 years, where were we? Where have we been? Where are we now? And then just a few ideas where I think we're headed. And it, I think, is a very, very good report. And I give you all the credit because our faculty, it was really good when I got here. It's way better than when I got here. It's an extraordinary faculty. So I just want to go through 10 slides and just say, here's kind of where we are. And then, like I said, say, well, here's what's on my mind. So I was focused on undergraduate admissions. It's a big part of our bond rating. We're a college university. I love who we are. We're a liberal arts university, and it's just woven through a great research university. So I started working at Kirkland Hall in 1997, 1998. And there were obviously people here 25 years ago. This shows how many undergraduate applications we've grown to. So it's a little bit over 28,350. We don't ever try to do perhaps what is done elsewhere, where you just try to get applications. My view about Vanderbilt has always been there's a young man, a young woman somewhere in America who's worked hard and thinks they want to go to a great school. And we should be on their mind. We may not be the best place for everybody, but goodness gracious, throw the doors of this great university open to everybody. So you can see we've done a pretty good job. You see there's a really big jump there. I have to give Doug Christiansen, our new Dean of Admissions. I would also point out that we opened the Commons and we went to our no loan financial aid policy around that time. And I think we are becoming increasingly known as a place with great academics that really believes in the American dream. Now, what that means is we built the Commons, 1,550 beds. Richard always sneaks an extra 50 on me. It's like the airline, you know, shorten the leg room, put more people in. You know, it doesn't take a Sal March, a Valeria Potter professor in the business school to know that that's his margin, you know. So look at that. 14.2% of the students are admitted. And again, we're not in the business of just rejecting people to reject people. But we're really trying to say we have the best faculty. We do the most incredible things on our campus. You heard these awards in so many interdisciplinary areas. We want the best students. Next one. These are the SAT scores. And believe it or not, the rating agencies, our CFO, Brett Sweet, will tell you, ask, what are your SAT scores? What's the demand for the Vanderbilt experience? How smart are your kids? Now, this can be a little misleading, too, because the old rule of thumb is for every 600 applications, 500, your test scores will go up 6 points. You just have more people coming in who are very smart. Our goal has always been to have a rich, multi-talented group of students in every school, because I, as a professor, I want to teach the best students because they challenge me. And I think you can teach things differently when the students start to evolve in a different direction and challenge them more and have them challenge you. Now, I like this slide because it shows in 2001 we do an overlap, you know, who are our top 10 competitors. So this one's pretty good. You know, I basically say I'd be in either one for a football conference, but as an academic conference, I'd rather be in the right-hand one. So what you see is Duke has always been number one, and that's okay. But you see, you know, what some people call the big three following right behind, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. And you'll note that neither Yale nor Princeton were in the top 10 in 2001. Wash U was second, dropped down to fifth. Stanford, you know, on the other side of the mountains, from nowhere, pops in at number 6. Northwestern, kind of staying there. Penn pops in. UVA, dropping down a little bit. And Dartmouth, number 10. And I would say, can you imagine sitting around doing that last essay to fire it on the Common App, and your kid says, I may go to Dartmouth, I may go to Vanderbilt. And I would say, Dartmouth, that's Canada. So you see, I grew up in Wisconsin. I get to say that. Did you go to Dartmouth? I'm sorry. It's a great school. I just call it Canada. Yeah. I'm very proud of this, and I think we should all be proud of this. There's so much discourse about, oh, you know, opportunity and diversity, and, you know, do you really believe in a meritocracy? Do you believe in excellence? And so you see here, interestingly, as all those other things happened, our minority students have grown from about 17 to 27%, and you'll see a nice ticking up of international students as well in the undergraduate class. Next, faculty awards. Okay, I think you're all fabulous. And I have been here long enough that I kind of know what a lot of you do and all the awards you win, and I try to write you nice little notes when I see you win a Guggenheim or a Searle, or we have a Fields medalist join us. I really try to celebrate that because that's why we all do what we do. We love to cash our paychecks as professors, but yet we're here to make an impact. And we're here to be recognized by our peers and others as great scholars, great teachers in our field. So the Association of American University tracks what are called AAU awards. And we're actually the repository for AAU Plus awards. And these are everything. These are now kind of multi-field everything. So you can have an NIH Pioneer Award, or when Rick Hillis wins the Whiting Poetry Prize, that's an award. So what we show here is how many of those awards, National Academy membership, Institute of Medicine, were won each year, and then what is the cumulative total of these prestigious awards? Mellon Fellowships, ACLSs, Packard Fellows. And I think it's just phenomenal. I mean, this is a faculty that just is very, very distinguished. And every day there's a report on a new award that faculty have received. And this is all a mark of your distinction. And we are a university that's moving very quickly. We're not 300 years old. But I think getting these prizes, getting these awards, getting our faculty in the national academies, the Institute of Medicine, those things really matter. And this is a great trend. Now, I think it's not surprising, next, that given how great the faculty is, what has happened to our graduate admissions? What are the graduate students looking like? Are they getting better? I hope so, because the numbers are pretty good. We've almost tripled since 2001. The admit rate is actually lower than the undergraduate admit rate. The yield is about 50%. Importantly, the number of graduate students is up. The number of PhDs is up significantly. And I believe that if we don't produce a large number of PhDs in important fields, we're not going to make the impact and transform fields like we really need to. We can do it on our campus, but we need to be training the scholars, the scientists, physician scientists of the future. Again, interesting, go back to that one. Underrepresented minorities, they've about doubled. 15.7% of our entering class for PhDs is unrepresented minorities, domestic. Let me just mention some financial things now, research funding. This is an interesting slide. It shows you the medical center, the university, and the old stimulus money. And then the red line is the NIH budget growth. So it shows that this university has consistently, over the last 10 years, really significantly outperformed with research funding. Now, as you all know, this is an area that's highly uncertain. I mean, we have this Congress that, we have this fiscal cliff. We look at sequestration and things like that. And we know that there are challenges ahead. I really think we're as well positioned as anybody. And I believe so strongly in the quality of our faculty that I think Congress is going to fix this. And I think there's a general consensus that research funding for America is really important. So I expect research funding to actually go up. I think some universities we're already here are down in their total funding. So the fact that we even eked out a little increase this year was good news for us. Tough sledding, and I see my friends who are writing grants, who are worried about pay lines, and I see your success rates, and I cannot thank you enough. Let's look at a couple of financial things. There was stuff that I showed you going up like this, and that was exciting. There is stuff going up like this that is not so good. So if you look here, going back to 2001 and peaking in FY09, that's our debt. That's the amount of mortgage we took out over those years. And so you see it kind of peaks in 09, and we actually are paying down that debt. Now, I'll be the first to admit it constrains us a little bit in those things that we want to do. But you can see, I think we outran our supply lines a little bit there. And we don't really foresee much new debt being taken out. And so we could get down to a very low number that inflation adjusted may be lower, Brett, than FY07. We're determined to go ahead with a science and engineering building. We have the partnership with medicine is really important. Philippe Fauché is here, our great new dean. The engineering school is phenomenal. That's a priority. So we will build, but to take a lot more debt is just not prudent. This is another one for the technical finance people that I sleep with. This shows, I've talked about derivatives that were purchased over time. And again, why did I get the peak year? Peak year derivative and peak year of debt. But I think we've taken some good remediation. We've gotten it down. It's a little technical. There's some good little courses on Khan Academy on fixed pair swaps if you really want to get into it. And we can have lunch. Brett's the best teacher here. But I've talked about these in the past. I think we're ameliorating it to the extent we can. When you see the bond rates go up, that's kind of good for us. And so a little bit of inflation in the system might help the old savings account, might help the Treasury returns, and allow us to get a little bit more swap relief. So I'll close with this one, because this does show a good pattern here, and it's our operating results. And you know, at the end of the day, we're all about excellence. You know, my philosophy is the first dollar, it goes to you, your hopes and dreams, our students, and our faculty and staff. But we needed to save more money. I'm very pleased to see that, and this is particularly in Jeff Balzer's area, where, I mean, that's not a business for the faint of heart. You know, if you say, well, you know what, I'm going to run a $3 billion medical operation. It's like, well, that's easy. It's not. And you see all the moving parts, and they're just, it's like an Escher print. You just can't get there from here. And there's so much misunderstanding and, frankly, policy garbage out about healthcare that I actually think things are getting so challenging that we're going to be able to provide some of the answers, because the problems are really difficult. But I have to celebrate Richard and Jeff and all of you for these. Allows us to put some money in savings again. You know, some people are a little short on the savings accounts, buying a lot of candy and new bikes and things like that. And we just kind of need to all work together. I like where we are in terms of the cash we're building up, but you know, just to get a little technical, we've got those derivatives, and they're a little bit, you know, a little bit of a hangover, you know, like a 5-6 year one. So let me close, you know, kind of what's on my mind, what's on all our minds. Hopefully we're sharing these things together. Affordability and scholarship support. Just this week, we saw MIT and Cornell back off their financial aid policies. And I think that's now made Dartmouth, Cornell, MIT, Williams, I don't know, any others? What? Wesleyan. And remember, we all said, oh, we're going to provide the foundation for the American dream. Times got tight, they've withdrawn. And I'm really committed to keeping the doors of this university open on the basis of merit and not need. And it really is important, and it's a moral imperative. Jeff and I talk about the future of medical education. You know, is it affordable? You know, how do we help people? Notice I'm not talking about the lawyers here. How do we help doctors who have dreams of being physician scientists or caring in certain areas really afford it? Because they may show up with a little mortgage when they come to medical school. So, you know, do we someday become tuition free? I don't know. What's our responsibility to society here? What's our responsibility to society? I'm very excited about engineering, medicine, technology, development, entrepreneurship. And this is a space everyone can play in. I mean, obviously we think of biomedical science, drug discovery, laser-guided surgical techniques, but yet it's about entrepreneurship, it's about creativity. And our students are just overflowing with ideas, whether they're biomedical engineering or Blair. And this is where I think Vanderbilt can play a really special role. That's our top capital project. I am very concerned about a public discourse that treats the humanities as no ROI. I'm very concerned about the careerism and the undercutting of the liberal arts education. It's the foundation of critical thinking. It's the foundation of good citizenship. And the humanities are what make us human. And I think a kind of creeping vocationalism and, well, how do we get that person a job? We can't ever let that happen to Vanderbilt. We have to think about critical thinking, writing skills, public speaking skills. Those are timeless. How do people learn over time? They learn over time because they have the ability to think and adapt over 25, 30, 40 years. And the liberal arts are critical. Sal made an important comment about internet and social media. I think it's a fascinating area. I think Bill Stead is here. Bill and I worked on a project on this in the 90s. And it was, this going to change everything? Of course, didn't go anywhere. I think what's happening now is something that I like, which is they're starting to realize that if you're going to move knowledge through a conduit, who creates the knowledge? Who validates the knowledge? Who validates what you're teaching and learning? It's the research university. And so we're starting to see, I think, a really important kind of shift where people are saying, you know what, I could put a lot of garbage out there. And, you know, I've got some economists in here. I know I saw Andy. There's a problem of lemons. You just put a lot of junk out there, no one knows what to buy. So you're starting to see these online people say, oh my goodness gracious, who creates the knowledge? And they're coming really to the great research universities to say, how can we play with you? I think it's very exciting, and I think it's kind of a shifting in what I'd call the locus of ideas and the locus of strategy. I think Vanderbilt's place is always going to be as a campus devoted to bringing people together and learning and living, discovering together. You look at your awards, you look at the statistics of these kids, you want to learn 1,000 miles away from them? They should be in your research labs. They should be writing symphonies with you. They're already performing with you. That's who we are, and that's who we're going to be. You see the towers at Kassam going up. I'm sure those of you in the neighborhood near Alumni Hall love the drilling, as do I. That's who we are, and just think how special we'll be. I really believe there are going to be 7 or 8 universities that are research powerhouses that say we bring 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids in to live and learn with professors, postdocs, and PhDs. Finally, I don't know how many of you remember, but in kind of the late 90s, early 2000, we undertook a strategic planning exercise. And I think there are a lot of people who like to do strategic planning every year. And it's kind of like, okay, well, how do you implement it? We got to go back and plan. I don't think that's a good way of doing things. We finished up a capital campaign. As you know, there might be another one in the offing. I want this to be a bottom-up process. We need the faculty to be engaged, and we'll work on that with you. One thing that we're going to announce is kind of a big ideas grant program that we're going to put out small grants, I don't know, $5,000, and just say, what are the big ideas we should be focused on? What do we need here? What are the resources? What are the facilities? What are the people that we need to pursue these big ideas? And I want it to come from the faculty. And I don't want the ideas to be, they can be any ideas, but hopefully they're not build more parking. We could cure cancer. You know, we're on, you know, through psychology and music and law and neuroscience, we're on the path of some really big discoveries about cognition and understanding and what it means to be human. And so we're going to start that process up soon. And as I said, this will be a broadly collaborative process. And it's the faculty, along with others, who are going to define what this university can be. I don't think when we sought, you know, when we look back at 2001, I think we had some ideas about what we could do, and I'm pleased where we have ended up here. But we've got great things ahead. Are there going to be challenges? Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I'm playing on house money now. I got 25 years, got my chair, finish up 5 years as chancellor. I could go down with a flesh wound. You know, hell, you know, get some of that bacteria on me. Jeffrey, but I'm telling you, we have great things ahead, and you will be a critical part of that. So thank you so much. I hope you're as proud as I am as where our great university is now, but we're going to do great things ahead. So thank you, and let's go have some snacks.